Countdown to Green. We take a look back to eNASCAR's first trip across the pond. We get prepared for tonight's encounter with the Monster Mile. And we take a look at how you're racing at home. All that and more tonight on Countdown to Green.
Hello and welcome to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. This is Countdown to Green and we are here at Dover Motor Speedway. I'm your host Camille Salazar-Hadaway. Joining me as always we have Blake McCandless, we have Alan Cavana. How are you two doing?
It's good. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad we're back on this side of the pond. Now we've got Brands Hatch. Now we're going to Dover. One of the best trophies, Blake, in all of sports is the winner gets a Miles the Monster trophy. I think the Dover officials watching right now, I'm calling them out, they should send a Miles the Monster trophy to our winner tonight. It's only fair.
I think it would be fair, too. And, again, I'm such a fan of Dover Motor Speedway. One of, I think, a favorite track of a lot of these drivers tonight, that they get to come to a place that's so fast in the middle of the corner, concrete, everything about it is so much different. A lot of tire wear. I've heard hearing that could be a big talking point tonight as well. So a lot of challenges for these drivers at the Monster Mile.
All right, well, we're going to have to see what is going to be that challenge, and we're going to break that all down here on Countdown to Green. But first, I'm always talking about that last race, which was crazy, insane to watch. So let's take a look back and see how it went.
And it was a wild one at Branch Hatch Circuit. Again, Alan, this was a track that hardly any of these drivers had really seen beforehand. There was a lot of practice that went into the weeks and days leading up to this race because so many of them were unfamiliar with driving a NASCAR next-gen car at this racetrack, but it's something that they all kind of learned together and put on a good show.
And I learned a ton by watching it and seeing this track. I didn't have that much familiarity with it, but so many right turns, so many high-speed turns and straightaways on this track, slowing right down. And then we had the different format, Blake, right? We had the sprint race format where we had qualifying, and then this incident early on. Something different for this series.
Again, Vicente Salas was one of the fastest, and you could have made a good argument that he was the fastest driver towards the end of that race, but the track position he lost out of that spin ended up putting him out of the running for this race win that was settled between these two. Bobby Zalenski, Steven Wilson going for another victory. Zalenski looking to try to get into the playoffs and some more racing. Again, it was action-packed all the way throughout the field, and this is exactly how Zalenski was able to get by. Kind of like what we saw between Salas and Wilson a little bit earlier. Got physical, but Zalenski got the lead and never looked back.
Yeah, that was one great part about this track. It allowed for some of these incidents. Some played out better than others for the drivers involved, but that pass by Bobby Zalenski, so important. This was toward the end. Vicente trying to get some revenge. Oh, Blake, you tried just a little too hard. I think he cost himself a lot of points there, man.
Cost himself a couple of spots indeed, but at the end of it all, it was Bobby Zalenski gets his first win of the season, and it just feels like time and time again, we talk about Bobby Z and his elusive chase of the championship, but he's finally able to get back on track at a road course.
Yeah, and to me, this saved his season, right? When we were talking about just the race before in Richmond, a track he done very good at, had a terrible night. He was sitting there around 20th, not in the playoffs. We're talking about the regulation line, right? So for him to bounce back and take advantage of another one of his strengths, to me, that showed me he saved his season. Still, obviously, a playoff contender, championship contender. Finally, another shot at getting that trophy. But this race, if it comes back to it, we're gonna circle this as this is the moment his season turned around.
No doubt about it. Well, again, we talk about how important winning can be, and on the flip side, I got to think about what it could have been for Vicente Salas. You always feel bad, Alan, when you're the fastest car, you feel like you've executed the best, that you deserve to be the winner, and somehow things don't quite work out. And you have to wonder, we know that you want to be aggressive in this series. Unfortunately for Salas, it did not pan out this time for him. So you just have to wonder, as we continue to go through these next couple of races. We know you pretty much need a win to have a possibility of making the playoffs. Is that going to be something that's going to weigh him down or motivate him in these next couple of races to try and do just that, lock himself into the playoffs? We'll take a look at the playoff standings, though, and you'll notice a big difference. First of all, Bobby Zielinski joins the winners column with Steven Wilson and Wyatt Tinsley. But if you've been watching the last couple of weeks, you may be wondering, where's Keegan Leahy, who won earlier on this year? Where are several of those drivers? Malik Ray, he won at Atlanta to get his first career win. He's not in the playoffs. That's because they're outside the top 20 in the standings. You can see on the right side it is close, but you have to maintain your spot in the top 20 to get into the postseason for your win to make you eligible right now, Alan, and those two are not doing it at the moment. We also have the segment standings, a brand new segment. Casey Kerwin won the first one. Brands Hatch was the first race of the second segment of the season. You can see Bobby Zielinski on top by courtesy of his win. And a couple of points were handed out because of the unique qualifying format we had last week. So you saw Salas with that spin. He lost a couple of spots on the last lap, but currently sits in second in the segment standings. Again, $3,000 on the line for these drivers to win this segment, as well as an additional 5 playoff bonus points, which helps a lot in one round, Alan.
Yeah, nothing wrong with a little money and some trophies. Same thing here with the team standings. After 5 of the 18 races, Spire's still on top, but look who made a big jump last time at Brands Hatch. William Byron Esports jumping up 3 spots. BS Plus competition down there in 9th, up 5 spots. We got to look at the right side of the screen there. Bad week for 2311 and Brands Hatch, -6 after that race. But Blake, the Cup team on Sunday won Talladega, so hopefully that's evening the feelings out right there. But 2311, they got to bounce back tonight.
Oh, lots of bouncing back, and lots of bouncing also was happening last race as well, if you're honest. But it's really cool to see these new formats in the segment and see that contrast to how these drivers are performing. We got more on that, of course, but let's talk about bouncing, because there was a lot of close calls, a lot of calls that happened with wrecks, and there's some of those moments that you're just kind of like, huh, what's happening? And we tend to have those a lot right here on the series, right? Right, Blake?
We certainly do. We are going to take a look back, and again, this is something it takes a couple of races to build up some moments that we need to take a look back on and just reflect and say, come on, guys, you got to do a little bit better. We're going to go to Really Dude here to start the 2024 season and take a look back at some of those moments. First one is from Daytona. Garrett Lowe, you can see right here, he's getting a shove from behind him from the number 14 of Seth DeMerchant, but we know that sometimes pushing in the corners not exactly what you want to be doing. There's a stack up in front of him with the 22, but he lays on the bumper. That 80 caused DeMerchant. You can see Kwame Scott also wrapped up in the fold as well. Really, dude, we got to be a little bit smarter than that to be pushing in the corners at these super speedways. We know you can push hard in these next-gen cars, but you have to do it well. We're going to fast forward, second race of the season, Las Vegas Motor Speedway, somewhat of the same cars involved. You can see Garrett Lowe, that number 22 car that's just up the road, the Oxygen Esports machine. Lowe's going to look to the middle. You can see a stack up on the outside with Graham Bolin. He's going to try to shoot the gap 4 wide. And guess what? You don't want to cause a wreck, Alan, but the one thing you especially don't want to do is you don't want to wreck your teammates. You can't be doing that, especially early on in the season with the driver standings, the team standings, and everything. Really, dude, you got to know a little bit better than that. Third race, Atlanta Motor Speedway. We're riding on board here with the QT, the Quick Trip Chevrolet of Wyatt Tinsley. Off of 4, a little bit of contact's going to get him out of shape, and just look at the massive crash that this causes. Just a little bit out of shape. This race was going so good up to this point. We had action all over the racetrack. Drivers were making moves, but really, dude, one bad bump, and we have 20, 30 cars flying apart on the front stretch at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Now, we've said really, dude, and kind of singling out maybe a driver or two. Richmond Raceway, we couldn't decide on one driver to just single out. It was the entire field. This race was a struggle for these drivers. How many times did we see off of turn 2 4 wide, and it didn't work out a single time. You'd think after a while, these drivers, these spotters, they'd learn, and I can't really say much better because the Road to Pro race I was in was the exact same way. 13 cautions in that one. Really, dude, and this is a collective really, dude, for the entire field. Best drivers in the world, sometimes they don't do the best job of showcasing that from time to time. And, of course, we cannot go any further. The most recent race 2 weeks ago at Brands Hatch, Vicente Salas, we saw the contact a little bit earlier that Wilson and Salas had on the opening lap. Salas looking for revenge, and he makes a mistake. He slips up, drops that right rear off into the grass. Sometimes when you're seeing red as a race car driver, you're more worried about hitting the guy in front of you than making sure you actually exit the corner. So last really, dude, Vicente Salas, come on, you got to get that good finish. You got to get those points.
Yeah, really, dude? Come on, man. I mean, it happens, but you know, he's had to be feeling a little embarrassed as a driver, right? I mean, trying to get revenge, and then the joke was kind of on him. Now he's got the highlight, and we get to talk about it. We just saw out here warming up at the Monster Mile, but maybe a little time for redemption for Salas and some of these other drivers.
Hopefully, Salas gets some redemption because, you know, it's the heat of the moment. And that's the thing that's really hard with the drivers. When they hit that track, you never know what is going to really, you know, make that difference. And you just hope that it's a good one. Good luck, Salas. We're hoping for you. You get that redemption. But you know what? Let's actually take a look back at a segment that we like to call The Vault, where our staff writer, Justin Melillo, is going to look back at a moment in the series history and from 2020 where Nick Ottinger actually made history for both him and William Byron right at Dover.
2020 feels like a lifetime ago, but it was one of the most influential years in the history of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. Already in the midst of their 2020 season, the eNASCAR contingent were called upon by the real-world drivers and teams to work with the NASCAR Cup Series stars to put on a show for everyone at home. In his 9th season of competition, Nick Ottinger signed on to drive for William Byron Esports, a team owned by the rising NASCAR star. With Byron back behind the virtual wheel, it was Coach Ottinger who got him back up to speed for the NASCAR Pro Invitational iRacing Series. The two drivers' sim racing calendars would intertwine often, sharing 4 race venues every other week, and Dover would be the place for history, as the real world and sim world teammates would collect wins on the same week, at the same track, for the first time in eNASCAR history. Of course, Ottinger didn't stop there. The Coke Series powered on for the remainder of the 2020 season. Ottinger took the checkers again in Kansas, punching his ticket to the Championship 4. By finishing ahead of Ryan Luza, Bobby Zelensky, and Michael Conti at the season finale in Homestead, Ottinger went on to collect his first career Coke Series championship, cementing a successful owner-driver pairing that continues to this day. And that's been a look back at one of the most memorable moments over the last 14 seasons of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series.
Nick Ottinger, out of boss, man. Jimmy Johnson is the king of Dover on Sundays. Nick Ottinger has to be the king of Dover here in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. All the wins that he gets, and then being paired with William Byron, who has won at Dover before in the Cup Series, probably the favorite to do it again this year. And now you have you got to think again, maybe the owner and the driver tonight, Nick Ottinger, maybe they both can get Dover wins this week. Betting favorites, I would think. if we're making picks later, I think he's going to get picked, guys.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
That makes me wonder.
Now, did we all? No. We'll have to wait to see who we picked. But for now, it's another segment I love. Although I do like beating Alan in points and Blake. But I do love also checking out your rigs at home. This is our Logitech Show Us Your Rigs, where we get to see your setup. This one is from Simone, Blake.
And Simone's got, again, I love the simple setups here, Alan. You know, might be a musician, I think you could say. I think I catch a little bit of sheet music that's just at the top edge of the frame there or something like that. So But again, simple desk setup. You got your Logitech wheels and pedals. That's basically what I have at home. So you know what? I'm a big fan of this, Simone.
Nice and easy, getting it done. I like this setup. We got the Coca-Cola branding up there, the nice hoods, those sort of old school NASCAR stuff.
Awesome.
A little odd cable management up there. There's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way.
Let's make up for it. I don't see the cable.
Oh, no, not at all? Right? Yeah. I mean, you get better signal when that thing is way up there, I'm sure, but not bad.
I feel a fire hazard, maybe? I don't know. Our third one is from Dan, and oh my gosh, Blake, look at this. This is nice and clean.
This is a lot to unpack here. My goodness, looking through what's that? The Millennium Falcon? I think I see it somewhere. You got Thanos' hand. You got all these die casts in different cars. I love the widescreen. Man, this is you even got Dad Hero in there. So good job, Dan. This is A+ right here. Looks very organized.
Yeah, and Thanos snap your way to a win. I love that one. Our next one is from David, and this one's you could take this one on the go, this setup.
Yeah, pretty basic. As a Buffalo Bills fan, I appreciate this one because a Buffalo Bills fan would go right through that table after a big win. So I like this. Look, it's a simple setup, but it's all you need to participate in iRacing. Logitech pedals, and then the wheel, laptop driven. This is something you can be portable with and bring anywhere, and don't break the tables unless it's a big win.
This is giving off Ty Majeski vibes to me.
Ooh, this one looks very comfy though. That seat,
pretty.
Yeah, that's a seat that you could sit in for a little while. As at Legacy Phoenix, you could see right there through the triple monitors, Derek Sellers. Again, the triple monitors kind of wrapped around, easy to be able to look around you when you're driving. So this is really nice, and a cool little button box that he's also got there that's sitting there.
Let's go to our next one, and I don't think Carriage is afraid of no ghost. What is that, Ghostbusters?
No, I love that. Yeah, I love that. Ecto Cooler, maybe he's drinking for a snack there. A seat right out of a car, so there's somewhere has a car missing a seat, but I bet that's very comfortable desk setup. Look at that beautiful cable management. It's all tied together. That is how you do it.
And our final one for the day is from Sim Racer Joe. What do you think about this one, Blake?
I like the efficiency of having so you got almost a spotter view there. You got timing and scoring. That's always nice to have, very important. The keyboard's in a specific spot. You got color-coded buttons as well as the monitor. You're doing a lot with not a lot of space here. So Sim Racer Joe, very properly named. This is a really tight-knit, but efficient setup, I would say. So Sim Racer Joe, shout out to you.
Joe ain't no Smo. We love this setup, and make sure to show us your setup by tagging us on all the social medias using at eNASCARGG and at iRacing, and also throw in the hashtag eNASCAR as well. We would love to see your setups right here on the show. And for now, speaking of Logitech, look at this. We have Tucker Minter doing his practice run right here. I do love that blue. Logitech blue is looking nice.
Well, again, William Byron Esports, we know historically, we saw the piece earlier, but this has just been a track that team has always performed well at. Tucker Minter's on the rise to see if he can do it again tonight.
And one of the things that we love doing on the show is catching up with, yes, the drivers, but also the team behind the drivers. And Alan, we got to do that with Kansas City Pioneers.
Yeah, the principals of the Kansas City Pioneers joined us. We were able to learn a little bit more about the team and what they were going to do in joining us here in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Both Sam Kulikov and Darius Boyd joined us, and we were able to ask them what drew Kansas City Pioneers to eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series after having a big reputation in the gaming world. What drew them here?
Yeah, so it goes a few years back, actually. We ended up connecting with Ray Smith on that side of things and helped him do a couple of things at the Speedway. And then I've always been a NASCAR fan, so I've always kept up with iRacing, eNASCAR, and then obviously the real stuff as well. But Ray offered us a spot, and we took it as we thought it was a huge opportunity to be involved in this series, and we definitely had the idea just from the jump to integrate gaming and traditional sports as well. So that was a big factor on it.
And again, they are involved in all sorts of gaming across different perspectives. So what are some of the similarities to other esports that they all participate in? Here's what they told us.
I'd say where it's dissimilar is what makes it really unique, in the sense that there is no other sport that can be emulated to the degree that iRacing simulates NASCAR. And that is just something so unique about it. And that's why we're really bullish on eNASCAR, is because we see the value in those two worlds, in the traditional athlete and the regular athlete and the esports athlete. But in this situation, the traditional athlete could be the esports athlete and vice versa. That's not really possible. There is no throwing a football in Madden in real life. There is no kicking the soccer ball in EAFC in real life, right? And so I think that there is a tremendous long-term tailwind, right? We've got a really good future for some hockey stick growth for this league, because it has play for major audiences. It's a pipeline for careers, and it's a way for traditionally underserved or places with less equitable solutions to enter into racing can actually get in through different means, right? So it's addressing so many things, and there's people that care about the product already. So I think we're in a really good spot for where this esport can go.
Yeah, I think Sam did a great job at hitting all the points there, especially on the competition side of things. Like you said, you're not throwing the football in Madden, you're not kicking the ball in FIFA, but you're actually feeling like the car in iRacing. You can get that feel. And also showing people like William Byron, Rajah Caruth, Caden Honeycutt, like those guys they came from iRacing, and even especially with Honeycutt, he's racing in the Coke series and he's racing in the Truck series. So I think it's super easy to bridge those two gaps, and that's really what we're trying to do, especially with bringing the guys out in real life.
And of course, the series could not have started out any better this year for them, with Wyatt Tinsley getting the win in Daytona. So have the playoff preparations already begun for the team?
Yeah, I mean, it was great to kick off the season that way, especially obviously it was nice to get the win in the exhibition, but kicking it off with the win at Daytona was amazing. And yeah, Wyatt's already focused on the playoff tracks. Obviously he wants to have a consistent season, but he's already putting in the work on the playoff tracks. And then luckily we were at the Hall of Fame last year for the championship race, and we had a great time in Charlotte. It was amazing, and the atmosphere was great. Seeing Kevin Harvick and everybody show up for that was really cool. But yeah, now we're really focused on getting Graham in the playoffs too. So that's really where our head's at until we get there.
And what's cool about having the KC Pioneers involved is that they're doing a special activation at the Kansas Speedway NASCAR race coming up. So for those who aren't aware, what are some of the details? What should we know about it? Here's what they told us.
Yeah, absolutely. So May 4th and 5th, we'll be at Kansas Speedway, and it's going to be an awesome time. We do have some really good promotions that we'll share a link to that you can access, that anyone is able to access. It's open to anyone that's coming in or is available to come in around the region. But it's going to be an eNASCAR packed weekend alongside the regular races that are already scheduled. So what we're going to be doing are some question and answers with iRacing drivers as well as other personalities in the space. We're going to do different opportunities for one-on-one fan engagement, where fans will get to leverage the simulator experience at the NASCAR experience, while also potentially communicating and chatting with some of the other iRacing drivers in the Coke series. We'll also have an autograph session on Saturday. We'll have different opportunities throughout the weekend to actually meet some of the up-and-coming eNASCAR drivers and some of the best of the best, as well as some of the top dogs in the space. Not only that, but there'll be opportunities to meet some of the other drivers that are driving in the actual race weekend that also have a background in sim racing, right? So some of the notable drivers that are joining us are going to be Wyatt Tinsley and Graham Boland from the Pioneers. We'll also have Malik Ray and Casey Kerwin from Spire. And then we're hoping to see a few other familiar faces as well, but there's going to be some great activities on the track. And really, we're just looking to create an environment for people that love eNASCAR or love NASCAR to just come out and just have a good time. It's an opportunity to ask questions, learn more about the space, meet some of the up and coming people. And we're just looking forward to spending some time with people that usually you only see on broadcast, right? So.
Good stuff from the Pioneers, and there's Wyatt right there, still Still probably glowing off that Daytona win, but, wants to make sure he's got that consistency. We saw some of our other winners dropping out of the top 20 in points. Not worrying about that too much, but you just got to make sure you're still on it, but looking good out there for the KC Pioneers. Great to hear from them.
It's also great to hear when, the drivers in the series get to represent the sim in real life races. So that's really cool too. Now, we do have the big race coming up, but first, Blake, you got to tell us, what are these drivers going to expect on the track?
Well, again, you saw it there in the practice laps. Dover Motor Speedway is an entirely different animal. Only a mile. It's the Monster Mile, but it is all about the banking that this racetrack carries. 9 degrees on the straightaways, and then you dive down. You'll hear a lot of real-life drivers. It feels like you're almost falling off down into the corner. 24 degrees of banking. Nick Ottinger is the winner in the Coke Series each of the last 2 seasons that we've had. But looking at this racetrack and how these drivers have raced, how the initial sessions that I've watched through the iRacing service have been, these drivers carry a ton of speed. We'll be moving around the racetrack, and we'll get a good gauge of that right now as we ride along board around Dover Motor Speedway with Austin Esports' own Zach Novak.
Hey everybody, Zach Novak here, driver of the number 5 Coca-Cola Zero Sugar Chevrolet for Oxygen Esports. Here's a couple laps around Dover. So coming to start the race, you'll see everybody trying to single file out as quickly as possible. How much grip the track has to start the run. It's really, really easy to get kind of caught in that trap of overdriving to start the run, and by then your tires are gone around lap 30 or so if you're not careful with it. So try and settle in here on the bottom a little bit and just kind of take my time and save my tires and see where we end up at the end of the run. Another thing you'll see is a lot of people will be shifting to start the run for at least the first 10 to 15 laps. Some guys may not stop the entire run. Some guys may stop around lap 15 to 20, just depending on what their car's balance is like and what their preference is from a driver's perspective. So another thing that you'll see a lot is, like I mentioned before, the tire wear is very, very excessive here. It doesn't really feel like it at the start of the run, but as the run progresses, this track eats tires really badly. So you'll see a lot of people kind of coming and going as the run goes on, and people will, kind of just be fighting handling on their car pretty much the entire race. This track is very, very difficult to set up for. Very high speed, low grip racetrack. So right there is a couple laps around Dover. Looking forward to a great race, and hopefully we can put it up front.
Great perspective there. And while we look from the track right now, let's go look at some trends that we've had in the past. This is the 11th eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series race at Dover. We did not race at Dover 2010, 16, 19, and in 2021, but that's a beautiful bridge shot. I love that. It's a great looking thing. Since 2018, the race winner led the most or second most laps. Think about it. The most laps led 22 in 20 and 22. Second most laps led in 18 and 23. So be up front, get that checkered flag. The Dover winner wins an average of 3 races a year. 2023, though, was the first year since 11 where the Dover winner did not win again. So, I don't know. Hope you don't want that trend to continue if you win tonight. The Dover winner has made the playoff every year possible, and 22 is the only year they did not also make the championship 4. So this race can tell us a lot. And Nick Ottinger has won the last 3 Dover races in a row. Started from the pole in both 22 and 23, and then had that bad qualifying day back in 2020 where he started a second. So it sounds like Nick Ottinger's pretty good here.
I think Nick Ottinger pretty good. And with that, let's remind everyone of our points for our picks, and let's tell everyone our picks. Let's start off with Blake.
All right, well, I'm going to speed right through this. I'm going with Caden Honeycutt tonight. Ooh. He's been really strong as of late. Talked to him this weekend. He actually said he didn't really get to practice a whole lot for this race. So you know what? He's just going to have a ton of speed in the race. I'm going with Caden Honeycutt.
Well, it would be foolish of me to go against the easy pick the winner pick, just like I did last time with Bobby Zielinski. Now it's Nick Ottinger in that 25 Logitech car for William Byron Esports. He gets yet another win at Dover, another Miles the Monster trophy.
Well, I wouldn't say it's easy. I'm just going to say maybe it's strategic because I'm also picking Nick Ottinger as well. So obviously, Blake's probably not going to win this one. I'm sorry, Blake. But with
Nick wrecks tonight, it's going to be good.
We're going to have to see. With that, we do have the race coming up, so be sure to stay tuned because we have Blake and Evan, as well as Xfinity driver and Euro Series driver Ryan Vargas, joining you, which is really exciting. I love when he's on the show to go through the race with us. So we're going to be watching our picks closely and seeing how they do. How are your picks going to do? Well, stay tuned right after this break, and thank you for watching Countdown to Green.
Every time you sit behind the wheel, you buckle up for the unexpected. You get ready to take on the competition and brace yourself for the chaos, the speed, the weather, the unknown. But above all, when strapping in, you put trust in yourself, your intuition, making your guide to win, your drive to win.
He's a winner in this.
And nothing is going to stop you from winning.
This is the make or break moment.
Oh my goodness!
Not just for the day, but for the years to come. This is where a race isn't just about the race. It's about the doors it can open.
That kid is amazing.
The number of fans wearing your number. This is the chance to carve your name into the history books. This is the NASCAR Xfinity Series.
I believe in something that I can't explain. The wind is calling out my name. Let it rain on me. You know I put in the hours, and I'm not gonna wait in line. I'm gonna take what's mine for the world to see. You gotta take the lead. You gotta feel the fire. So let's see. And I still believe. Take the lead, take the lead, take the lead.
The road to $500,000 takes on Miles the Monster, where tonight from iRacing's virtual Dover Motor Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 6 of the 2024 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Well, as always, we're happy that you're spending your Tuesday night with us alongside of myself, Evan Pasoko, joined as always by guys who are much faster than me in race cars, both real world and virtual. Blake McCandless as always, and Ryan Vargas back in the booth with us again. Ryan, I'll jump to you first on this one. Happy to be back with us.
Oh yeah, absolutely stoked. And for one of my favorite tracks too, Dover Motor Speedway. This place is absolutely treacherous. It's tough. I mean, we talked about it earlier in the pre-race, track position is going to be key. So I'm excited to see who lines up where, and we're going to be placing our bets as to who comes out on top.
And we're 6 weeks in, Blake. 5 races, 5 different winners. I think all that early season talk is done for, and we got to get serious. We're at the point where those golden tickets may not be guaranteed for just one race win at this rate.
Well, and you got to think, too, how many drivers we've had that have won already that are either in danger of falling out of the top 20 or have. We talked about Keegan Leahy, Malik Ray. They're outside of the top 20 right now, so there's only 3 winners that have a spot in the playoffs right now. So you got to be thinking points. You got to be thinking wins. And Dover is a place where so much can happen, and a lot of that can shift around all night long.
And we're going to find out as we get set to go racing for race number 6 on the year. But qualifying has drawn to a close, so let's go trackside. Take a look at our starting grid, and it is pole position for the Williams Esports 51 of Donovan Strauss, who will bring us to the green flag tonight. He'll be joined by the M80 number 10 of Steven Wilson. Row number 2, we'll see the Joe Gibbs Racing 18 of Bobby Zelensky and the Williams Esports 53 of Parker White. Back on row 3, the Junior Motorsports number 8 car of Caden Honeycutt and the William Byron Esports 97 of Tucker Minter. Back on row 4, Front Row Motorsports is 34 of Derek Bordeaux. He'll start P7. P8 tonight goes to the RFK Racing number 6 of Timmy Holmes. And to round out your top 10, row 5, the Kevin Harvick Inc. 62 of Matt Busa and the Tony Kadani Sports number 66 of Colin Keister.
Talked about all that's going along with the Kansas City Pioneers. Graham Bolin will represent them in the 11th position with Taylor Hurst to his outside for Team Dillon in the 12th position. Nick Ottinger, winner of several races here at Dover Motor Speedway, is going to try to do it from the 13th position. And former series champion Zach Novak for Oxygen Esports will start in 14th. 15th tonight for Nitro Circus will be Dylan Duvall. Cody Bias close to victory lane at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. He'll try to do it tonight at Dover for the Pittsburgh Knights. The other Junior Motorsports entry in Briar LaPrade will go 17th. Front row is represented by Michael Koji Jr. in the 18th position. And back in row 10, Garrett Maines for FGR Excel and Casey Kerwin, Spire Motorsports, directly in front of his teammate to round out the top 20.
And Malik Ray will start exactly where he sits in the points, 21st, with some work to do in the Spire Motorsports number 7. And then the second of the M80 entries, it's the 80 of Ryan Luzer to the outside of row 11. Jimmy Mullis, the Kevin Harvick Inc. 29, going to be alongside the Oxygen Esports 22 of Femi Olatunbosin. They will make up row number 12. And lucky row 13 tonight, we'll see the BS competition number 90 of Jordy Lopez and the Letard Esports 36 of Kwame Scott. Back on row 14, it's Travis Pastrana's Nitro Circus Sim Racing team and the 99 of Matthew Zawak. He's next to the Team Dillon Esports number 3 of Jonathan Delaney. A couple of rookies in that mix. And back through your top 30, the Letard Esports 40 of Dylan Alt, just ahead of the RFK Racing 17 of Colin Bowden.
Mentioned one of the drivers with a win that needs to get some points tonight. Keegan Leahy's going to have to do that from 31st in his 2311 Toyota. Seth DeMerchant going 32nd for FGR Excel. Back at 33rd, it's Ryan Doucette for the Pittsburgh Knights. Joe Gibbs Racing Zone. Daniel Falkingham starting tonight from 34th. Garrett Lowe goes from 35th for BS Plus competition, as well as Ray Alfalo looking for his first top 30 of the season for eRacer from 36th. Vicente Salas close to victory lane. He's going to have to go from 37th tonight, along with Michael Guest for 2311 in 38th. And rounding out the tail end of the field, Wyatt Tinsley for the Kansas City Pioneers and Tyler Gary starting 40th tonight for eRacer.
Let's look top to bottom at your starting grid. Qualifying so far this season for Donovan Strauss has been a bit hit or miss. It is a hit tonight. Blake, you're dialed up with our pole sitter.
Well, when I saw you Saturday, Donovan, you didn't seem exactly confident that you had put in a ton of work into this race, but apparently you didn't need it. Fastest to start tonight. How do you feel rolling off this one from the first spot?
Yeah, I mean, it feels good to be at the front of the grid again. I hit a really good lap, and just thanks to everyone behind the scenes for all the hard work. We got a Parker up here as well and Steven, so I'm just thankful for everyone. It's going to be a good show. I'm just hoping to stay at the front here and do what I did at Homestead a couple months ago for 2023. So it's going to be a good show, and I'm hopefully going to keep the lead the whole time.
Real quick, tire wear, are you concerned about it or not?
Yeah, I'll probably, I think I'm going to back my pace up here, and I'm sure everyone's going to do the same, as I'm sure everyone's aware of how hard the tires wear and how much grip you lose over the run. So it's going to be tough, but it should be fun to watch.
It will be, and that'll work us right into our race analysis here presented by eNASCAR, and that's going to be a big talking point. Tires of the essence, and it's because, Evan and Ryan, you lose so much time on pit road here, down to 35 miles an hour, only 3 sets of tires available. That fuel window, I've heard that's not going to be much of a concern. It's tires. Getting to 60 or 70 laps is going to be a struggle for these drivers tonight, so that's something we'll definitely have to watch.
It's going to be fun to watch them play out, and we're happy that you're with us as always. Pace car going to dive to pit road. Field in the hands of the 51 of Donovan Strauss. Race number 6 of 2024. Slow roll to the restart zone. Let's go racing at Dover. Nose to nose at the end of the first mile, lead to Wilson on the outside of the racetrack. Better start than the pole sitter Strauss. They'll stay side by side. Watching on from third is Parker White.
We mentioned early on, and we heard it just from Donovan Strauss there, that he was thinking about backing up his pace. So with Wilson kind of hanging tough on the outside, I don't know how much you'd side draft him to try and pull him back here, Ryan, but I would think if you're Strauss, you're probably going to let Wilson roll that top side, and if he gets by, so be it, if tire saving is the focus early on.
Well, that, or also if you're Donovan Strauss, you're thinking, hey, Steven Wilson, go ahead, burn your tires up on the top side, right? I don't really care how much he burns his stuff up. So if anything, this may even be a little bit of a tactical defense as we get some tight racing off of turn number 4. That's Garrett Maines being stuck in the middle.
Both of the Spire cars in this mix. Malik Ray, Casey Kerwin watch it on. A little bit tight that exit from Maines. All of this in the midfield. Some 2.5 seconds off of the ongoing battles up front. Some desperate drivers in this midst as they all jockey for position early in this 120-lap race. And now 3 wide to the inside goes Malik Ray. It's going to put Maines 3 wide center again. Poor corner entry. Cozy drops a spot or 2.
Cozy's brushing off the cushion up there. I didn't think we'd see, I knew we would see drivers move around a little bit, but I didn't think we'd see them running quite that high in 1 and 2. But I mean, Ryan, you can kind of touch on this too here with how much banking is here at Dover. These cars, especially these next-gen cars, they carry a ton of speed through the corner here, and you know that kind of plays into aero a little bit. I was running a C-Fix race a little bit earlier, and man, you've got to value that clean air. Right now, everybody kind of wrapping the bottom, trying to save those tires, but I think there's something to be said that if you want to go to the high side and get that clean air, it's definitely going to help you out.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to worry about that clean air. Michael Cozy Jr. right now in the top lane. That's not the ideal place, obviously, right? You're going to burn your stuff up a lot harder, but as well, you'll be able to carry the momentum a lot quicker on that top. This place is a mile long, but it drives like an intermediate. You want to get that ring around the top and be able to get a good drive off the corner. So, Evan, pretty dicey here at the beginning stages.
And I know we can't feel it, but you almost can with that gyro camera. The 24 degrees of banking in the corners, the 9 degrees on the straightaways as well. It's something that you have both touched on, Ryan, that makes this racetrack so unique and aggressive.
As someone who has raced here, both in the ARCA E Series as well as the Xfinity Series, it feels like a roller coaster. You feel like you're dropping, 15 stories down, and then it just sucks you down into the race seat. So, a lot of loads here around Dover Motor Speedway.
Things settling down maybe slightly. Still some 2x2 here and there, but a lot of the 3 wide we saw early working itself out, and you can see up front that battle for the race lead did eventually go in favor of Strauss via the bottom. So the 51 car trying to settle in and lead some laps. We jump back to the battle for P5. Bobby Zelensky doing battle with the Ada Honeycutt, Caster, Holmes, and more also in the mix.
You can see early on drivers, although they're kind of running the bottom, you could see kind of the differences in lanes as some drivers will run half a lane lower, try to duck their nose out, get a little bit of clean air. Zelensky, though, we kind of talked about how, Brands Hatch, clearly an opportunity for him to turn his season around. He's able to do that. And, I think the other theme coming into tonight was drivers who have a win that haven't necessarily fared well points-wise, and Bobby had a really tough start to the year, so this could be a big opportunity for him to try and gain some points as we see the battle for third. Tucker Minter kind of representing what we've seen over the last several races here at Dover Motor Speedway. William Byron Esports, whether it's William himself or his esports team, they've been insanely fast here at this racetrack, and Tucker Minter no different after his rough start to the season.
No different at all. There's a look off of the back of Tucker Minter. He gained 3 spots pretty quick.
Of lean right there.
Oh yeah, he's willing it through the corner as if there wasn't enough banking to help.
Garrett Smithley'd be proud of that.
But this right here is a good example of that momentum along the top side, right? You see Zelensky and Tucker Minter. Tucker Minter looking back at Zelensky here. Zelensky's able to carry that momentum around the top side and get that drive down the straightaway. And that's such a big deal here because if you're getting attacked by the car behind you, you can go on the defensive mode and really try and maintain your position.
You saw a little bit there. Minter kind of looking, in the mirror. You kind of mentioned getting attacked. As soon as he gets on the straightaway, probably going to take a quick peek up or at least to the side, notice everything. But man, I mean, if I'm Tucker Minter, I'm glad it's 120 laps. My neck hurts just watching him.
He's going to be doing that, looks like, every corner and all night long. But for the moment, I'd say he's pretty comfortable in that number 3 spot. We talked about Cozy a little bit earlier in this one. He was way up top. The 38 car has kind of settled things down, running in line with everybody else. And Blake had made that point, Ryan. We might see these drivers move around a little bit. You've driven a couple different cars here at Dover in the real world. Of course, many more as well here on the service. What can you do as a driver when we're single filing things out to mix up the lane earlier? Is that you just kind of have to wait to see what the racetrack gives you?
Yeah, you could run basically different lines, right? We talked about the aero blocking, the aerodynamic push here. As you see Femi Olot running a little bit higher than Cozy here, just trying to get that air on the nose, right? You see he's going to get a good drive off the turn 2 here and get to the inside of Cozy. That's textbook Dover right there. Getting that drive off the corner, getting that air on your nose to be able to plant the throttle and be aggressive on passes.
And much like when we saw the battle for the lead early in this one, the 38 Cozy able to defend top side, and Femi's going to have to try to hit the reset button and try again as he continues to chase down Cozy for P19, Blake.
One thing I noticed when we were with Tucker Minter, you could hear him shifting. Femi Olot, you do not hear this 22 car shifting right now. So there's a difference amongst many of these front runners about what they want to do. Was speaking with a couple of team, I guess maybe we could call them team principals, if you should say, before this race, and they kind of mentioned this fact that you're going to see a little bit of a difference in shifting. That downshifting to 4th gear, although it kind of gives it the turn through the corner, and if you're Kevin Harvick on Fox, you'd be really happy about hearing somebody downshift. It hurts the rear tires a little bit, and I don't want to compare it. I keep talking about tire wear. It's like we brought the Bristol tire, is what I heard this race compared to when talking about Dover tonight.
We've talked a lot about paint schemes and how these cars look throughout the season, and there's a special looking color set on the 80 car for this week of Ryan Lewis. He's running a wheel and paint scheme as the brand celebrates a 2-decade-long partnership with NASCAR. Whelen Engineering has been trusted for more than 70 years to protect those who protect others and is the official warning lights of NASCAR. Whelen is the global leader in the emergency warning industry and makers of the most reliable simple and powerful warning lights, sirens, and high-powered warning systems on the market today. You can see those distinctive Whelen colors on that 80 car out there on track today, and we encourage you to follow Whelen Motorsports on Instagram to stay up to date with all of the things that are happening in the world of Whelen. Back up to the battle for P5. This fight is still ongoing. Almost now a full second, though, off of the lead as those cars up front, Strauss and Wilson, starting to pull away from the rest of the top 10.
Yeah, I'm a real big fan of the line that Caden Honeycutt's been running all race long. This time he kind of differentiates from it, but he's been always peeking a nose out, right? Either a little bit to the inside or a little bit to the outside, just getting that air on the nose, because when you're stuck behind a car like this, especially in traffic, it just burns that right front. So anything you could do to get that air on the nose to get it to rotate, Caden Honeycutt's doing it, and he's finding some speed.
Well, and he's not only doing it, if he can go a little bit lower, I think he would, but at least the opportunity is not there to do that. I saw him a couple of laps ago that as Parker White was running a little bit higher, he'd kind of duck out and really try to wrap the apron here. But not getting that opportunity, you'll see he'll kind of gauge where White in front of him is going to go and then sets up his corner. If he's a little bit lower, I'll charge in a little bit harder, try to get some clean air on the right front. And vice versa. We've seen him drop down a couple of times and try to get some clean air on the left front as well. But again, I talked to Caden Honeycutt this weekend before he ran and won at Orange County in a pro late model in the car store, and he was talking about not being very confident coming into this race. He didn't necessarily have a ton of practice with the fact that he had a pretty busy schedule last week, and doing solid and doing me a solid right now because he is ahead of Nick Ottinger. So we are making up more points on the pits right now.
They're close, though. P7 and 8. That's a good battle to watch between those two. A little bit further back in the field, Zach Novak rides in the number 12 spot. Let's go on board with his Oxygen Esports Chevrolet. It's your Coca-Cola onboard camera. There's some exciting racing coming up, and the Kansas City Pioneers are going to be doing a special activation at the Kansas Speedway. Let's take a look for some more info. So not only do you get to enjoy a race weekend of some top-level NASCAR action, but on top of it, you can get up close and personal with the elite eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series drivers who will be making special appearances throughout the weekend to make meet your favorite sim racing heroes during the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series autograph session. And you can also seize the chance to score some free iRacing subscriptions. But guys, that's not all, because you can immerse yourself in the heart-pounding world of iRacing at the the NASCAR Experience iRacing simulators as well. The virtual champ's going to be on hand to provide some expert coaching, ensuring you leave with the skills to dominate on the racetrack. Again, you saw the promo code there available. Going to be one of a really unique opportunity at the Kansas Speedway. Secure your tickets now and to be a part of a great action-packed weekend. And we talk about all the different unique teams, Blake, as we jump into this battle for P15 that are a part of this series, from the real-world teams to the sim teams. What a fun crossover with the guys over at the Pioneers.
Do a great job with that activation. Heard a lot about that weekend that they've, and this is not the first year that they've done it at Kansas, but you speak of unique teams, I'm looking at some unique lines that these drivers are running. Right now, you can see Cozy kind of falling back, struggling a little bit. Definitely made up those spots and kind of using 8 tires to make the corner there. You'll have that sometimes at Dover, but Cozy right now just trying to hang on. You can see, Ryan, he probably used those tires a little bit too much right now, and as the groove tends to be, or is trending to look like it's going up towards the top, he's stuck on the bottom, and he is awfully loose right there, and that's a tough condition to handle at Dover.
Well, it's a tough condition to handle, especially when you're in the middle of a Spire sandwich between Malik Ray and Casey Kerwin as they squeeze off of 4 contact on the straightaway. But man, just crazy racing there. But you talked about Michael Cozy Jr. He was one of the guys we saw really early on testing the waters, right? Flirting with that top lane, right? And while it gains you speed, it gains you track position, it also cooks your tires a lot quicker than those guys around you. So Michael Cozy Jr. feeling the effects of that, but that's Michael Cozy Jr., right? No fear, throwing it all out there, letting it all hang out.
They did just about everything they could to wad it up that last time through. That was the first clean exit off of 4 I've seen at about 3 laps and change, but still 2 by 2. And now a battle for the race lead is on. Donovan Strauss has led for 34, but he is under fire. Steven Wilson outside and clear. Back to the race lead goes the 10 and the 97 of Tucker Minter. Gonna follow through as a huge wreck on the front straight.
Oh!
And to no surprise, just happened to be that battle that we had just looked away from as the battle for the race lead was on. Malik Ray involved, so is the 38 of Cozy.
Looks like also the 23 of Keegan Leahy was involved, the 2311 team, so big incident there in the middle of this green flag run here.
Well, what was it we talked about at the top of the show? Malik Ray, Keegan Leahy fell outside of the top 20 in points despite the fact that they have a win. So that wreck taking out some of those contenders and perhaps opening up some spots temporarily for some drivers to make it into the playoffs on points as it stands. But this was kind of a part of the race. We knew 30 or 40 laps in, these drivers were going to be hanging on, and they certainly were. And this is going to set up a really interesting part 2. 80 laps to the end. Fuel wouldn't be an issue there. Tires may be an issue getting 80 laps into this race. So this next run could be very, very interesting. Let's take a look
almost
back at what
prophetic
happened.
that you had said at the start of the race 80 was where that would get interesting. Let's take a second look. Malik Ray, Taylor Hurst, they get into each other, center off of 3 and 4, and that's how it ended. Hurst sideways into the left rear, or right rear, I should say. Malik Ray off the corner, and they take a couple other cars with them. Let's see what Jory Lopez saw.
Looks like just frustrations building out of Hurst there. He gets squeezed up into the wall, probably got a little bit loose off the corner, squeezed into the bottom, and just calamity here at Dover. There's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide when this stuff happens, and Jordy Lopez just squeaking through.
So he is more fortunate than others, and it's going to bring everybody down pit road for service. I don't think any questions about what the service was going to be. Some drivers executed better than others, though. We'll recap that when we come back. You're watching our coverage, race number 6 of the 2024 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. It's Caden Honeycutt for the first time tonight scored as your race leader.
Every time you sit behind the wheel, you buckle up for the unexpected. You get ready to take on the competition and brace yourself for the chaos, the speed, the weather, the unknown. But above all, when strapping in, you put trust in yourself, your intuition, making your guide to win, your drive to win.
He's a winner in this.
And nothing is going to stop you from winning.
When you want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. For anything on iRacing, there's just one name you need, Makoni.
We now provide the best of the best in setups, paint schemes, coaching, broadcasting, and event organization.
With cars across all 4 license classes, we have what you need to hit the track with confidence. Grab a subscription and save money while going fast at MakoniSetupShop.com.
Back underway here at Dover Motor Speedway. The green flag is back out, and this is, for the most part, how they left pit road, Ryan. You can see Honeycutt is able to grab the top spot. Garrett Maines gained a couple of positions as well. Strauss, and then how about Derek Bordeaux able to implement some strategy here to get up towards the front?
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about earlier in the program here tonight. Track position is key, right? And guys like Derek Bordeaux, Garrett Maines, Caden Honeycutt, they were buried a little bit. I know Caden Honeycutt was in that top 10, but still, that clean air is key. He's going to be able to set sail here and at least dictate the pace of this race, decide how fast he wants to go and how quick he wants to burn his stuff. So, very interesting to see kind of where everybody shakes out right now, and Caden Honeycutt trying to set the pace.
Your first lap's led for Honeycutt. He had been up front and in the mix all night long, but how about Garrett Maines as well? Started way back in 19th. He's your biggest mover inside of the top 10. Outside is Steven Wilson. He had just gotten back to the race lead after leading 3 laps earlier. The untimely yellow and a poor service on pit road has got the 10 car with more to be desired. We'll see how he can fight back through traffic to the bumper of Kerwin for P6, no move. He'll just give the 77 a bit of a shot into turn 3.
Again, a number of these cars up front took 2 tires. Caden Honeycutt, 9.4 second stop. Bordeaux, 9.7. Kerwin, 9.5. So as much as we were talking about tires and the right side wear, it may not have carried over to the left side because Honeycutt obviously values the track position more than having those, at least those left side tires. So we'll see how that pans out. Remember, Steven Wilson, this car right here at Richmond, he won Richmond because of a 2-tire call. So it is something that we've seen, I think, continuing has become a trend in this series.
Continuing coverage of tonight's race brought to you by Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. Is it the best Coke ever? Try and decide. By Logitech G. Through design, engineering, and a love of driving games, Logitech G takes racing simulation to another level. Logitech G, the official wheel and pedals of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. By Makoni Setup Shop. Our setups, your victories. And by Sunoco. From fueling your favorite NASCAR teams to filling up at the pump, Sunoco is trusted to help vehicles perform at their peak. Sunoco, performance is what we do. Well, that time by 10 laps away from halfway home in this Dover 120, and Caden Honeycutt has got his rear view mirror full. Garrett Maines looking low, looking high, challenging for the race lead in turn 3.
Yeah, Garrett Maines is getting impatient right now. He has the speed. He's obviously a little bit quicker than Caden Honeycutt. He's going to look to the inside. I don't think he's going to have a nose there. But yeah, he just has so much pace and just wants to pressure Caden Honeycutt, wants to make him push just that much harder and try and get the track position he needs.
And Honeycutt running exactly where that 12 car is. Whether he was going low or going high, he is 100% playing the aero block game. Kind of remind, you know, he's a Nice Motorsports driver. Reminds me of another Nice Motorsports driver, Ryan. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, who does that very well.
Oh yeah, no, we see a lot of, I mean, this is truck racing right here, right? You know, you see guys like Caden Honeycutt do this. You see the Carson-Osavars, the Ross Chastains, you know. These guys, they know how to play with the air and defend, and that is exactly what Caden Honeycutt is doing to a T. And it worked out for him. Now Garrett Maines is trapped back in 3rd.
They were all over him, and that little bit of a defense allowed Strauss and Maines to fight with each other, and that gave him a little bit of breathing room. The slow 23 of Keegan Leahy will limp around the bottom of the racetrack. His Xfinity machine was damaged in that accident on the front straightaway. He's going to be the first driver to fall off of the lead lap in this race as he rides in P40.
And again, what a couple of stretch of days it has been for Caden Honeycutt. Again, mentioned calling the ZMAX Cars Tour race in the Pro Late Models. He ended up winning that race. He finished second in the late model stock this past weekend. Just has had so much real-world success. We know his Craftsman Truck Series schedule has been relatively busy recently, and I don't know, maybe there's some other series that he'll be running in recently. Stay tuned for that a little bit later this week.
A little bit of a tease.
Absolutely, but don't look now. Donovan Strauss is trying to close the gap a little bit. He had a lot of speed in that first stint. We saw Steven Wilson try and catch him down, and he eventually passed him. But, right now, Blake, your pick?
It's looking good for now. We know a lot can change, and, with so much time left in this race, I know Ottinger right now running in the 13th position. I wouldn't write him out, and from Vicente there, when we were kind of riding on board there a little bit earlier, heard that maybe he was trying to save a little bit of fuel. I know 80 should be good for these cars, but maybe you're thinking green, white checkers. But also, again, I heard that 80 laps is going to be pushing it in terms of tires and whether your tires are going to be able to make it to the end. So we'll see how these drivers kind of all manage that. Is another beautiful Sunoco Chevrolet, as it seems like there is every week here with Kwame Scott.
Yeah, those Sunoco cars are always looking good, and I always like kind of doing a browse through the field every week to see who's got a different paint scheme, and that's kind of the status quo. Is some of the best cars in the field for Kwame and some of the other drivers out there. Sunoco always having fun with it. He's got some work to do, though, from P26, but is exactly where he started this race, so at least consistent for the moment in that number 36 Chevrolet, and plenty of battling going on around him in that midfield. But we look at Derek Bordeaux in the number 6 spot, trying to chase back down Steven Wilson. I think Wilson got back around him off of the restart, and now they got some lap traffic. That's the 7 of Malik Gray, who will stay high and out of the way, but the Love's Travel stock Ford Mustang Bordeaux has pretty much been top 10 all night long, as this next time around will be 60 laps down and 60 laps to go at the Monster Mile.
And he's one of those drivers that took 2 on that pit stop. And I gotta say, Ryan, I'm surprised that as we've gotten into this run, that 2-tire strategy has worked as well as it is right now. As he pretty much has restarted and stayed in the same spot since we dropped the green.
I will say, if you're Derek Bordeaux, it's not working because you're slowly falling back, right? But if you're Caden Honeycutt, it's working beautifully because you're in the lead. You got that clean air.
You touched on it earlier, Blake, with our eNASCAR race analysis. It's really the tire sets available and how that relates to that fuel window below that makes this race interesting, especially given just where that first yellow flew in this race.
Look at that fuel window, I think a little bit shorter than what these drivers will be able to do. Again, it's the tire life, I think, that is the concern for the most part.
We keep getting deeper and deeper into the season, and if you want all the latest news and updates from around the world of eNASCAR, then sign up today. Scan the QR code, bottom right-hand side of your screen, and keep in the loop with iRacing, the official simulation partner of NASCAR, as we are going to continue to march towards the postseason here and get closer and closer to crowning a champ. We are almost halfway through this regular season. We will be in 2 weeks' time when we go racing at the Talladega Super Speedway. Hard to believe. It feels like we just kicked this one off, but feels like we say that every year with how quickly these things fly by and how competitive this 15th season of eNASCAR competition has been. Nothing changing up front. Honeycutt steady at about a 1 second advantage over Minter, now P2. The 97 making a pass for that number 2 spot. Strauss falling to 3rd, and behind them battle on for 4th and 5th spot as Steven Wilson picks up another one.
Yeah, Steven Wilson's been one of the fastest cars on track all day long, right? We saw it in the first segment there before that first yellow came out. He was charging hard trying to get the lead, and after that pit stop, we saw it had kind of went wrong. He kind of got buried into the top 10, but slowly and methodically working his way up. Probably, you know, saved a little bit at the beginning of the run here, but now he's just picking them off one by one.
For a brief moment, maybe a moment of serenity inside of the top 10. I said it was brief. You jump back, you got more action going on. Here's the live points as we run. Again, the 8-car Honeycutt tentatively leading this race would be the 6th different winner in 6 races to go to victory lane, Blake, but that would only, as we look at the live points, have 4 drivers in based on wins due to that top 20 caveat.
Well, think of who's struggling in this race right now. Malik Ray, Keegan Leahy damaging off the pace. They're not going to be able to recover aside from a miraculous comeback effort for them. But just look how close they are beneath that cut line, too. I mean, with the fact that we've had so many winners who have struggled and this series has become so competitive, look at just how close it is in terms of points. You have, 8th back through 15th in the point standings, all within a single race of each other. So it is continuing to shape up to be one insanely close season. One of those drivers that's on the outside looking in, he is well on the outside. That was Briar LaPrat up there running all the way next to the fence here. And, you know, it's something that it has changed in seasons past. And again, this is the work that iRacing has continued to do with the Oval Refresh that was released earlier this year. We knew it was going to change how these races played out when you get all these cars on the racetrack. And, you know, that's a new challenge that these drivers are having to face, Evan, even in the Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series. It's something that I've noticed, that you're having to chase the racetrack more as a driver than you ever have before, and you could see these drivers running entirely different lines than what they were just 50 laps ago.
Yeah, started this race when things started to single file out. They were on the bottom. Not the case here. Somebody 7, 8, 9 cars up the roads, up against the fence. LaPrat in the other side, trying to get to the inside of the 3, right down on the bottom. Also worth noting, just to put a bow tie on that wins conversation, well, 2 race winners that you didn't see on those live points, Malik Ray and Keegan Leahy, 39th and 40th on the racetrack right now. So that was a talking point already coming into tonight. They're going to be even further in the hole leaving tonight. Not what the 7 and the 23 teams needed in any thought, as it's only going to get more difficult for them from here, as they're inside now of 50 laps to go at Dover. I've been watching the intervals on the ticker. Tucker Minter has been chipping away at Caden Honeycutt. It was over a second between those two. He is there with it a half a car length, and now looking to the inside for the race lead.
Yeah, those two tires are worn out now, Blake. I mean, we see Caden's going to put it on his fight out on the top, and I don't know how much longer he can hold on.
It's tough. As you kind of look at the right-hand side of your screen, you can see how far those drivers are beneath that cut line, and they fall further and further back. Does Leahy and Malik Ray only 11 points right now, but that's going to be tough sledding for him, and Keegan Leahy 15 points back. The problem is, even with the 2 tires, Honeycutt may be struggling right here, but as that groove has kind of moved up a little bit, and it seems like you want to run higher, if Honeycutt can just go out there, he may not have the tires, but it's going to be harder and harder to make that move on the bottom, despite the fact that his tires may not be as good as what Minter has right now.
What's worth noting as well, who's been faster than both of these cars up front right now, Ryan? That's Steven Wilson in 3rd. He's catching them both. Here's another big swing by Minter to the inside and clear. Big move for the 97 car, and for the first time tonight, Tucker Minter leads at Dover.
Well, yeah, you mentioned Steven Wilson there, too, in 3rd place. He's seeing them racing side by side, and he keeps saying, I want you guys to keep doing it, keep racing, keep battling. But Tucker Minter here, obviously with the tire advantage here, he's going to now try and just set the pace and just try and scoot away. Now, for Caden Honeycutt, this is a little bit of a panic mode here. Yes, he has a track position. I don't see this being too detrimental, but now that he's in the arrow wake of some of these cars, especially once we start seeing a little bit more lap traffic, it's going to get really hard to maintain that track position and keep those tires underneath you. But Steven Wilson in 3rd, licking his chops right now.
I'm sure Wilson would have preferred that battle continued to go on, to your point, so he can continue to chip away. Now, if he's able to continue to close in, he would have to deal with Honeycutt first and then Minter. Curious if the 8 car puts up a fight. That's assuming Wilson gets there. Their lap times have been a little bit closer to even the last time through. And on the bottom of your screen, side by side for the P5 spot, Garrett Maines and Bobby Zelensky. He pushed way up on the 12 that time off of the corner, ran him out of space and almost lost it. He doesn't back out though, and here comes the 34 of Derek Bordeaux.
You see how aggressive Zelensky has to side draft to try and get clear of Maines. He washes up the racetrack. They touch. Oh, this is going to get tight off the exit of 4 as they somehow make it happen. And we saw Zelensky last week. He got a little physical to pass Steven Wilson, but you may see the dividends of it, the benefits that he's able to reap from it. If you're going to kind of use the driver up like that, well, the best thing you can do is get gone. And that's what Zelensky will try to do for that 5th position. But again, this shows you how difficult it has become, especially off of turn 4. We see so many drivers, even running the high side, sliding around to complete that pass. You have to work so hard to be able to get it done on the bottom, and you're almost kind of having to use that driver up top as Maines will try to recollect himself and try to hold off for 6.
Couple of taps to the wall that time down the backstretch. Hadn't talked a ton about Keister tonight before now, but that Micro Center Toyota for Tony Kanaan Esports has been super consistent, fast all night. He'll take that spot from Derek Bordeaux, who swings to the outside, maybe a glimpse of 3 wide. As to the bottom went Kerwin. It doesn't work out for Bordeaux. He'll fight the 77, and in the end, Keister wins the battle for 7th for the time being. Keister does not need to lean into the corner like some other guys. He's got the arms to will it through the corner as he's fighting aggressively, and now as Bordeaux gets back to the bumper, that 34 loves trying to toss it into the outside and 1.
Oh, man,
he's almost hitting the wall out there.
I was about to say, speaking of just diving it in, he's almost touching the wall out there. I'm looking at Casey Kerwin here right now, though, guys. He was in the back half of this top 10. Yes, he's still back there, kind of in 8th and 9th battling, but he's been slowly picking these guys off one by one, and you can never count Casey Kerwin out at any race.
Up 11 spots, make it 12 for the moment as he gets a nose in front of the 34. So Casey's been improving constantly. More contact that time between Keister and the 12 of Maines. This battle going to go all the way up now to P6, and Kerwin's got a front row seat as his 77 car watches on. He picks the top side for the moment. Big out of shape for the 66, and it sounds like that 77 of Kerwin, Blake, might be shifting.
Indeed he is. I mean, you can look at his right hand here as he'll go off into the corner, and yep, you can see him shifting down the front stretch and then downshifting into turn 4 as they get into 3, and he is all over the back of Colin Keister. He's going to wash up the racetrack, and they're not going to make it. Crash on the front straightaway. Kerwin, Keister, and Garrett Maines involved. Jordy Lopez may have got a piece of it at the tail end. Caution is out with 35 to go. And that is how quickly things can go south here as Kerwin looked to the bottom 3 wide as Keister was struggling. And this sets us up for a 30-lap or so dash to the end of this one.
And Kerwin had nothing to do with the contact that had started, but he was just flying too close to the sun. He was essentially the 3rd car on the inside of that battle. At the very last minute, he was behind them off the corner and then tried to get to the inside. The 66 and the 12 had done that about 2-3 different occasions. And then once they came down, there was nothing he could do.
Yeah, no, Keister, I noticed him in the middle of the lane there. He was very edgy through the center there, very loose, very, really all over the wheel trying to hold onto it. And then with Casey Kerwin diving to his inside, it definitely probably didn't help the handling on that race car and put them both in a very tough position there, and just no space here. That turn 4 exit closes up so fast, both here on the sim and in real life. So no surprise to see them get collected.
Curious to see. We saw, I think, 3 or 4 cars go for the 2-tire decision. That run wasn't too dissimilar from the first one. We'll keep an eye to see what the decisions are, Blake, as we take a second look.
You know, so Keister, again, you do get a little bit of arrow loose with Kerwin right behind him, and you can see with Kerwin making the move to the bottom, he slides up. Maines perhaps a little bit loose as well, drifts down the racetrack perhaps just an inch or so, but it didn't matter. And then poor Jordy Lopez, you mentioned the fact that this is a tough place to try and account for when you're wrecking, because you're exactly right, Ryan. There's nowhere to go here. The walls cover this entire racetrack. Cars bounce up all the time. So you can see Lopez actually tags the 80 there, slows down, and well, didn't slow down a ton, but uses the wall, and unfortunately Colin Keister probably going to have some damage there.
Yeah, Jordy was in a very vulnerable spot there, right? You know, he was right behind Ryan Luza battling for position, and he already got into the back of him once and probably didn't want to wreck himself and Luza, so decided to go to the inside. And unfortunately, with how this place is here at Dover, it's a self-cleaning racetrack. You know, once you're in it, you're in it.
Seems like almost all of the race leaders, Blake, going for 2 tires that time on pit road.
Yeah, I was looking through the first car that took 4 tires is Jonathan Delaney. He's 29th. So it is universal across this field. They are not worried about the left side wear. It is all about the right side wear. You can see Tyler Gary. He actually came down and pit under green on lap 58, but you know, that's kind of the flip side of this, Ryan, that you come down under green at Dover, you're going to lose 2 laps, and unfortunately for Gary, he did lose 2 laps. He's going to get 1 back here with the wave around, but that's unfortunately the risk you play when you pit under green at Dover.
Well, let's dial up now the driver of the number 97 machine, Tucker Minter, currently leading this race. Tucker, 2-tire call for you. Everybody else behind agreed. Walk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, track position is just so important in this series, and especially late in the race. And then you saw how good Caden was able to hang on. You know, only Steven and I were able to get past him when he took 30 laps into the race. So it was pretty much a no-brainer to take 2 tires right there.
Does it help at all that we're looking at about a 30-lap run to the end of this race, and we've kind of seen 2 runs at that length already?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we just like I said, we saw Caden, you know, hold on pretty much to the lead through 30 laps right there. So that gives you a lot of confidence that it's the right play. Now it just comes down to making sure we're good enough in the short run here that we can hold on for the win.
Tucker, you've seen this track go through a number of changes. Are you worried with the 2 tires that it's going to handle different, or where are you thinking about trying to make your car work the best here down the final stretch?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just comes down to making sure that you get the restart done right. You know, the restart box is shorter with the restart zone, so that makes it really crucial. Once we get, you know, rolling, I think it'll affect the balance a little bit, but clean air is so important that really that launch is what it's about.
Well, Tucker, we appreciate the time and best of luck on this one. The 97 going to be lining up inside of row number 1. He has led 14 laps tonight. Steven Wilson has led 6. He'll restart P2. Caden Honeycutt has led 35. He'll restart in 3rd. And Donovan Strauss has led 34. He will restart in 4th. So all of the laps led so far tonight occupied by drivers restarting on the front 2 rows. It'll be exactly 30 laps to go at Dover. Going to take the green flag again, this time by, again, 2 tires for almost the entirety of the field. Maines has got 4 back in 23rd. So does Delaney in 29th and on back. So let's see how they manage what could be the final restart tonight. Pace car's gone. Minter's in control. Green flag back in the air.
And I'm surprised that Honeycutt got such a good launch here on the bottom. We talk about this restart zone being tough on the inside. It's even tougher from 3rd, but he got a fantastic launch for him. He may look for the race lead if he could try to make the bottom work. Tucker going to go up and try to block the run from Steven Wilson. As you can see, everybody fanning out, looking for any piece of clean air they can find.
Big runs topside on the exit of the corner for Wilson, actually pushing Minter clear. Honeycutt, the battle's going to be P2, but Honeycutt really tight that time. He loses P2 and almost fends Zelensky.
Well, now we're singled out in front with the first 2 leaders here, right? You got Steven Wilson in 2nd. As I say that, Caden Honeycutt's trying to show a nose to the inside of Wilson. Very
clear
tight.
enough.
Yeah, clear enough. Clear with contact. But Steven Wilson now really trying to put the pressure on Tucker Minter here. It's a shorter run here. We're under 30 to go. So these guys are going to be pushing hard to try and get that track position that they need.
Meanwhile, midfield 2x2, just like we were racked up for the restart about 3.5 laps ago. No separation. All of this from about Nick Ottinger, P10 on back. Does the streak end tonight for Nick Ottinger? That car's been just good. Hasn't been great. He still has a ton of work to do if he wants to join these top two. Here comes Wilson looking to the inside.
Almost was able to get there, but what an interesting line he took into one. It wasn't necessary that he ran high, but he entered really high. They almost touched for the race lead. Minter wiggles after a little bit of contact. That's going to give Honeycutt and Zielinski a huge run into 3.
It is on up front, and every time Wilson looks, Honeycutt looks as well to see if that offensive move by the 10 is going to leave him a bit vulnerable for a look from behind. Battle for 4th. That sees the 51 of Strauss to the inside of Zielinski. They'll slow each other down just in the slightest as all eyes are still on the top spot of the scoring pylon, and look at them go. Minter still leaning through the corner. He's the leader. It's Wilson and Honeycutt at charge.
Yeah, you see Minter now trying to be a little bit defensive, right? At the beginning of this run, he was much wider going into turns 1 and 2, and it left the gap open for Steven Wilson, who kept trying to show his nose. Now Steven Wilson's trying to play the offense now. Okay, now let me run a little higher, try and get this drive off the corner. You see he's going to get a big run down this front straightaway here and clear and close into Minter.
Just look at the run he's going to build up, though. Goes all the way to the outside. If he could get the throttle down and not get loose, his wheel looked pretty steady. He builds up a lot of momentum, but not quite able to get there in 3 and 4. And again, this allows Honeycutt to run a little bit lower and get some clean air with these two kind of driving a little bit higher and Minter having to defend against Wilson.
Wilson, a big run that time, right to the back bumper of Minter. And we can see with the onboard for Wilson, at least, we can't see Tucker's hands, but with Wilson through the corner, Ryan, there's a lot of really small, sharp movements on the wheel. What's he doing there?
I mean, really, it's just, going over these bumps here, right? The car takes so much load going through these corners, and the way this concrete surface here is, it looks smooth, to the average viewer, to the average eye, but there is nothing but bumps and tons of load, especially when you go through these corners, and you see how much this track changes. I mean, we're 3 wide all over the racetrack, battles all over the racetrack.
Blake, you talked about that oval refresh is putting on a show right now here at Dover.
Yeah, it is. Minter kind of able to run the middle. Wilson trying to go up high, and then Honeycutt electing to take a lot of the clean air, running a little bit lower and hoping that these two race it out. Again, how many times have we seen two cars up front not take each other out of the running, but as soon as Wilson and Minter get side by side, if they do, that's going to allow Honeycutt or even Zielinski an opportunity to go on by. As Wilson's going to try the crossover here off of 4, use as much side draft as he can. 19 to go. Minter's going to run on his door. Wilson's going to slide up the racetrack. They're going to touch, and that's going to allow Honeycutt right back into the mix. Great stuff here up front.
All over each other the whole way through 1 and 2. Now pinching down Wilson is Minter. He punches back and clears again for the #1 spot. But we are far from over here at Dover. On board Honeycutt in 3rd. It's Wilson P2, Minter P1. What does the 10 car do this time? Going to be 17 to go at the stripe. This time it's going to be outside for Wilson as he tries to wind it up.
Wilson's doing a fantastic job right now, getting the air on his nose and trying to build those runs. You see him, he goes right to the bumper of Minter, lays the bumper to him down the straightaway, and now he's just trying to cut back underneath, right? He's got the nose underneath to the inside, getting that air on the nose, and he's just going to suck right up to the rear bumper of Minter.
I think Minter got the fence a little bit that last time in turn number 4. Wilson opens up the bottom again to get that huge head of steam. To the inside he goes, Blake.
What a move from Wilson. We've seen him build up that momentum time and time again as he's going to slide up another time. Almost hit Minter. Caution is out, though.
At the moment of yellow, I believe the lead still belonged to Minter. Garrett Lowe's 89, Colin Bowden's 17. Involved in the accident, 32nd and 33rd on the racetrack. and the timing of that yellow critical, because it'll keep the 97 in front. If that had been maybe 5 seconds sooner or 5 seconds later, we could have been talking about Steven Wilson as the control car.
And don't look now. Bobby Zielinski is up to 4th position and was charging hard on your 3 leaders here. I don't know how hard they were pushing, but Bobby Zielinski right now, in my opinion, is in the catbird seat.
There's no way they pit. That's a fake. Yep. Well, did Wilson pit?
No, Wilson, Dale came back out.
Okay. It just he was out of the frame. I mean, he has a win, so he can risk it. But yeah, there's no way they were pitting there.
First taker is Kwame Scott, P23. But they almost had me fooled. I thought they were coming. They were well below that line, but worth noting the pit road commitment rules in iRacing maybe a tad different than that of the Cup Series. As long as you don't enter the pit lane, you're fine. Let's take a second look at the incident, though, that happened. This doesn't look too dissimilar to what your race leaders have been doing for about 10 laps.
Man. Oh, and you just see contact on the front straightaway. Garrett Lowe on the inside. Just tight racing off of turn number 4 at Dover, right? The car gets so unloaded, and you just see that's just one of the classic Dover incidents right there. Just a lot of
not a lot
out of control.
Not a lot. I think our leaders have gotten away with far more than that contact.
Yeah, I was going to say that's typical Dover right there, cut and dry.
So no strategy to mix things up front. Worth noting that nobody who took 4 tires on the previous pit stop has entered the conversation, so we're still talking about the 2 tire takers.
Well, we're going to catch up here with Steven Wilson, again, one of those takers that did elect for 2 tires last time. But Steven, you were able to build up some huge runs on Tucker Minter there. Do you think this caution in this heat cycle hurts that, or do you still think you have that bullet in the chamber?
I feel like we have a little bit of an advantage, but clean air, it's just so hard. I've tried doing what he did to a couple guys earlier race and throwing a slider, but he knows that move, obviously, because he's the one who's been pulling it off to perfection. So about wrecking about 6 to 7 times there on that short run, but it's just hard racing. Props to him for that. And I'm kind of surprised nobody pit here on this caution. I went to the apron there to try to see if anyone would follow me. But I guess everyone's committed to staying out at this point, and we'll see what happens.
All right, Steven, we'll let you get after it. Good luck here for P2, trying to grab yet another win in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. As we'll transition over here, a wreck that brings out the caution involving Colin Bowden. Colin, what happened?
Just Garrett Lowe really wanted 35th place some kind of bad. I mean, we're just back here wrecking for 30th, racing like an idiot. I mean, we're all frustrated. We're back here in the back. I get it, but I mean, sometimes you got to drive out the windshield and not with your head up your rear end like he was doing there. But that's part of it. That's a tough 3-race stretch for the old BuildSubmarines.com car here. We haven't finished not one of these out of the 30s yet. We got Talladega coming up yet. We're gonna win that someday.
About to ask you about that.
Yes, sir. We're gonna win that damn thing. Sure as the world, and we're gonna put a hockey bet in right here, and we're gonna win it, and everything's gonna be okay the rest of the night. But unfortunate.
That's a good, fair point. That's a Colin Bowden interview, ladies and gentlemen. There's no other way that I can. How am I supposed to follow that up? Like, Blake just left me to the wolves there, and he's like, "Yeah, follow up Cowden, or follow up Bowden, be as charismatic as that." Not going to happen. Tough break for Colin and his crew. It is a good point to note, though, that Talladega race looming large in the minds of many. So lights back out on top of the pace car. Going to be an 11-lap dash to the end, guys. Do we get to the end on here?
Man, I don't know. It's Dover. You know, we've seen all the heavy contact all throughout the field all night long. I don't care if you're one of the leaders or if you're one of the guys back there where Colin was in 30th. There's elbows out all across the field. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw yellow here in the coming lap.
Caden Honeycutt, P3.
I think we're going to have another addition to Really Dude somewhere in these last 11 laps.
Only one way to find out, and let's drop the green flag. Pace car is off and in. What can Tucker Minter do from the inside of the front row as the control car? Green flag in the air. It's an okay start, but a bit of a bobble through the first gear change, and Wilson's right there. Look at Honeycutt forcing his way to the outside, really wanting to get up and off of the bottom.
I love seeing the games that were being played on that restart as Minter tried to get high as they'll make contact for the top spot. Minter sideways. He hangs on to it. Wilson, we heard he was going to try to pull a slide job if he could, but not able to get there just to his inside off forward, but not enough to try and drag him back with the side draft.
Steven Wilson, the defending champ and already a race winner this season. He's got a lot less to lose than Tucker Minter on the door, side by side for the race lead with about 4 car lengths a gap back to the cars in third. Minter on the outside, Wilson all over him that time at 9 to go.
By the way, where did Donovan Strauss come from? He's a part of things as well.
You see Ryan Luza pushing a couple cars up the track back there, but your leaders are still side by side through turns 1 and 2 down the back straightaway. Wilson is pressuring hard on the under the inside of Minter. They lead, they hit.
Caution as they're side by side for the lead. Who was in front at the moment of yellow? Involved is Taylor Hurst in the 33 car, and is it going to be Minter scored as the leader again, decided by just inches at the moment of yellow?
I just got to give a tip of my cap to both of these drivers. Minter, holding Wilson down, and Wilson making as much contact as I think you could possibly as you possibly can without going over and stepping over that line. That was some great stuff. Honeycutt was about to go 3 wide. He was about to build up a huge run. Unfortunate there. That was some good stuff.
Let's see what interrupted the battle for the race lead. They were 3 wide in the midfield. Hurst looking, is it 4 wide for a moment maybe? And then as they come out for the corner, things actually just condense in front of him. I think it was the 77, and then he gets checked up. The 33 and the 12 finish each other off.
It actually looks like the 33's teammate of Jonathan Delaney also spun to the inside there. So just like I told you guys before we hit that restart, right? Everybody's elbows out, whether you're in the front and the back, and that right there was just elbows up coming off a really tight turn 2 exit.
Flying by the leaders there, a wave around for Malik Ray. That could be big for the 7 car. We talked about him needing to salvage some points from tonight's race. At one point, he was down in P last. Now it's 35th. Still could be better, but he's going to get back onto the lead lap. That's big because if there's another incident, that would be more positions that he could potentially make up. So that's a championship story to keep an eye on.
Well, Caden, got to talk to you this weekend. Weren't necessarily confident about about doing well tonight, and yet you're up here in the top 3. You got a shot to win this thing. What can you try to do from the position you're in with Minter and Wilson battling? What are you kind of thinking of, and how do you try to approach these last few laps?
Man, Blake, I don't really know. I kind of just have to bet on the fact they're going to crash each other. We have so much grip right now. There's not really enough fall off to just go up there and drive up next to them and be able to make a pass. So. That last restart, I gave up the bottom because I thought I was going to be able to get off at 2 really good, but it took a couple laps to get past Don there. So I'm going to try to do a better job on this restart. Maybe, I don't really know. Like the goal is honestly for Steven to race Tucker here because I'm not going to have a good enough start unless Steven somehow messes up badly on this next restart, spins the tires and goes up in the wall or whatever. So. I don't know. Like I'm just gonna time the restart. I'm trying not to be too greedy. I had a really bad finish last week at Brands Hatch, so just want to bring this number 8 filter time Chevrolet for Blake and Dale to a top 3 or a top 5 would be a good day for us. So, well, we're just gonna see, man. I can't really do much of. I'm certainly not gonna wreck somebody for a win. That's not how this series works. That's not how racing works. So I'm gonna take what it gives me, and we'll just see what happens. Hopefully we're still talking to y'all at the end of this race.
All right, saw your name on the entry list for the Xfinity Series this weekend. Look forward to seeing you run out there. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I don't know if this will completely transition, but it sure is getting me a lot of practice for this weekend. So, like I said, we're going to go after a win. If we can't get it, we're going to smile and finish P3 or top 5. So either way, it's been a good day.
Some points on the mind of Caden Honeycutt. He lines up in third. Again, he and Minter without race wins so far this season. Meanwhile, they are already been to victory lane. If you're Stephen Wilson or Bobby Zelensky, they're looking for number 2. And how about the Williams Esports cars lined up on row 3? It's a Duracell lockout for Strauss and White. They have had a great charge late. What could they do from third? And does that put them in the position where if there's fireworks in front of them, could they capitalize as well? It'll be our last chance at finishing this race inside of regulation. Going to be 4 laps to go at the stripe. We need to get to the white flag without a yellow for this race to be official. The 97 did not get a great start last time. What can he change up in the small restart zone to try to benefit his race? Pace cars off and in, coming to 4 laps to go at Dover Motor Speedway. Tucker Minter looking to return to the playoffs in 2024. Green flag in the air. It's a good jump.
That was a really, really good start, but Kate Honeycutt's going to dive to the inside, send it 3 wide. 3 wide for the lead.
Wilson looked to the high side for the moment, wasn't there. He'll tuck in line. Honeycutt bottom. Wilson gonna push Minter clear to turn 3.
It was a great launch, and he went for it. Unfortunately, not able to get clear to the top, but that's exactly what Minter wants. He wants Wilson and Honeycutt to battle, and the last thing we want to see is a wreck in the back of the field, but unfortunately, that is going to put us into overtime as Garrett Lowe looks to be the one that got the worst end of it in turn 4, and we will have to re-rack him and try it once again.
A tough break for Lowe, who ends up in the outside wall. Seemed to be a pretty minor incident, all things considered, but it's worth noting those yellow flags are not judgment calls by any one person. Those are automatically triggered by the iRacing service. And the yellow flag coming out automatically for Lowe's accident is going to push us into extra time. No doubt who was the leader at the moment of yellow. It was all Tucker Minter. He's probably pretty peeved about the timing of this one. Let's take a look back. 3 wide in the middle of the field.
Got loose.
I don't know if it was a late or a hasty move for the middle car there to go 3 wide, and when it moved up the hill and got close to him, it sent him around.
Yeah, just a quick snap and overcorrect. And again, you kind of mentioned the fact that we have a lot of cars that are on much fresher tires at the back of the field, and you know they're fighting for all these points. They're trying to get up into the top 20 and make up a few spots before this race comes to an end. You can see a little wiggle out of Ray Alfala, and unfortunately, that's enough to make contact with Garrett Lowe, who gets the worst end of it and is going to have to hold on here for the last few laps.
Well, and it doesn't help that Lowe's also been in a couple incidents tonight too, right? So he's probably a little off the pace, so he's probably just trying to hold on, right? So just unfortunate situation for Lowe there.
So just gives Tucker Minter more time to kind of think and ponder this over. And we mentioned this earlier in the show, but if you missed it, want to hit on it one more time, that there is some exciting stuff coming up this weekend with our friends at the Kansas City Pioneers in a couple of weeks for their NASCAR Race Weekend Special. $30 tickets to get up and close and personal with the elite eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series drivers who are going to be making special appearances throughout the weekend, and you can meet many of the sim pros during the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series autograph session, and also sees the opportunity to score some free iRacing subscriptions. To purchase tickets for that special event, to use the link on the bottom right hand corner of the screen. That's nas.cr/3Q1RPWY. Again, a fun mix of great NASCAR racing as well as an opportunity to chat with some of the Sims best. So let's walk through eNASCAR Overtime. If they've joined us once or twice, Blake, they're probably familiar with this, but we'll run a refresher course for the sake of it. 3 attempts to finish under green.
3 attempts, and again, the one difference between what you'll see here in the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series and real life is that once they get the white flag from Barney the flagman, we're racing through to the end. We can have anything happen on the last lap, but luckily safety isn't much of an issue and we will race all the way back to the checkered flag.
And of course, 3 is the limit that we will tap out at. It's going to be a very quick first lap. So we'll see how many attempts we get at. And of course, Tucker Minter feels like that he probably had one of his better starts the last time, even though Caden Honeycutt threatened to the bottom. It was kind of quickly snuffed out. It's been tricky for the leader to get a really good jump and get clear and build a gap to turn 1 at all tonight. We'll see what the 97 can do. Also, because of the timing of the yellow, it does change the order, Ryan, with the 10 machine of Wilson. He takes P2. He's now outside of row 1, and Honeycutt lined right back up behind the 97 again.
Yeah, so if you're Caden Honeycutt, you're just hoping the same thing happens again, right? You're just hoping that Steven Wilson doesn't get a good start. You could either A, follow Mitchell through the corner, or B, do exactly what you just tried and take it 3 wide for the lead. But we saw how much of really it's a disadvantage for Caden Honeycutt to do that. And I liked his interview. I think he had the great mindset there of just racing for points, making sure that you capitalize on their mistakes and maximize the day.
It is attempt number 1 at eNASCAR overtime. Minter, Wilson on the front row. Honeycutt and Zelensky on row number 2. Pace car down and in. It is Tucker Minter's field to control as they tiptoe to the restart zone. Green flag back in the air. It's a great jump for Wilson. Nose to nose for the race lead.
Honeycutt going to try to go for it once again. He timed it perfect. So did Steven Wilson. But now it's going to be side by side for each of your front 2 rows. Honeycutt's going to be clear for 3rd. The leaders side by side. 3 wide for the lead with 2 laps to go. Minter on the bottom. Here comes Caden Honeycutt around to the white flag. Do they make it back? Honeycutt gets tied out of 4.
Big bobble. Minter gets sideways. Wilson clear for the top spot. Behind them, Honeycutt fades 3 wide for 4th. One last look. What can Tucker Minter do? Looks to the inside. Can't get to the bumper. Second time in 2024. This time at Dover, Steven Wilson gets the win. What a wild 2-lap dash. Wilson and Minter nearly wrecking for the race lead. Coming to the white flag, it seemed like it was Caden Honeycutt's Blake. 3rd lane with all kinds of daylight, but Wilson fights back and will become the first repeat winner of 2024. This winning moment is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. Maybe it makes sense that the first driver to 2 wins in 2024 is your defending eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series winner, as Steven Wilson will take the Polish victory lap around this Dover Motor Speedway. Let's take a look at your Coca-Cola move of the race. Steven Wilson leads only 8 laps en route to this victory, and it was the outside and the amazing start to this restart for the 10 car that put him in the conversation.
Again, Honeycutt, such a great move. Actually hits the apron there, but he got a great launch. It's going to set them up side by side. Oh, Minter, yeah, he got tight. That was such an incredible save, though, for them to go 3 wide. And then I thought Honeycutt was in the catbird seat here. And I think he just gets back to the throttle a little too soon, gets out into the marbles a little bit, and Wilson's able to clear.
And at that point, it looked like Minter still had a hope, Brian, but he bobbled kind of on his own at a 4, and it just put him just far back enough.
Yeah, I mean, but let's just be honest here. Steven Wilson was so much faster, right? Once Steven Wilson was able to take advantage of Tucker Minter's mistake off of turn number 2, it was really Steven Wilson's race to lose there. And Steven Wilson, you see right here, taking the checkered flag here tonight. Just a massive win, massive save down the backstretch. I mean, elbows were out all night long, but Evan, what a race.
What a race, and it is a second trip to victory lane for Steven Wilson so far this season. Richmond and now Dover as we head to the Sunoco post-race report. Blake, let's talk with our race winner.
Steven Wilson, a winner yet again in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. You got the restart you wanted. You and Minter are hitting each other off at 2. What happened from your perspective? Because that was one heck of a finish to watch from ours.
Yeah, that was pretty damn wild, I'd say. I mean, on the restart, it looked like I just timed it pretty okay. I mean, I didn't want to beat him to the line because we were on the outside, so more banking and with old tires and 2 tires that had like 80 laps on them. Obviously, they were spinning a lot, so I lifted to try not to beat him to the line and just made it even the last time I did that. On that first restart, he was able to clear me before 2, and it looked like he was trying to do that again. Obviously, a win in this series means everything for playoffs, so I don't blame him for that. It was just wild, and honestly, I thought Caden had it into 3 there, but he drove it in really deep and was just able to come out of turn 4 clear on the next lap.
You're the first multi-time winner here in 2024. Coming off a championship, you're chasing down what would now be, I believe, a segment points lead. Where has all of this come from? I know you've been such a strong driver for a long time, but after winning a championship, it's not uncommon that we see not a struggle, but definitely not the same level of performance the next season. But what keeps you motivated? What keeps you performing like this and performing better, I would say, than what you were a year ago?
Yeah, honestly, it's really fun when you're running up front and know you have that speed every week. Coming to tracks like Dover, where my last 2 years here, I finished 3rd and 2nd and now 1st. So I guess we were just counting down from 3 down to 1. But I mean, the tracks are just suit me really well. I feel like I run well at every type of track now. I've really been working on that. And after getting that championship, everything that you want to lead into goes into that. So then I just want to keep it this year and go back at it. Got to thank the boys at M80 for bringing me on this year. Happy to do this for them this year, as well as the back end boys at NFR. This setup was flying. We had pole with Donnie and me on the front row as well. So we had Q speed, we had good race speed, and just happy to bring it home.
A perfectly executed race gets it done at the end for his 2nd of the season. Yet again, Steven Wilson in victory lane here on the Sunoco post-race report. And after a valiant effort, it is Tucker Minter who has recovered from a struggling opening couple of races to put himself now into the top 10 in points. So, Tucker, I know there's a lot going on at the end of that race there, but just kind of walk us through those last couple of laps in that final restart.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, frustrating. We get a rash of late race cautions, and then, you give everybody a chance to get a bunch of restarts on you. And everybody's allowed to lay back in the restart zone and get a good jump on you. So not a lot you can do when you're the leader with the restart zone. You're just kind of at the mercy of, maybe you catch them out when they roll it wrong. That's pretty much all it comes down to. I felt like I raced Steven pretty clean, and he raced me pretty clean. I'm getting pretty sick and tired of running second to Steven. But, I wasn't going to go into turn 3 and just run him over. I don't race like that. I don't think that's right. So just frustrating, but at least we didn't get wrecked on lap 4. So, it's better than how the season started, like you said.
And you've been clicking off several great finishes, 3 top 5s so far in 2024, which actually is second best in the series to Steven Wilson right now. But kind of moving forward to Talladega and some of the other races that we have coming up on the schedule, we know that Talladega can be a wild card. Charlotte Motor Speedway, I know that's a track that you really look forward to. So what's kind of your mentality, your mindset to approach these next couple of weeks as we get towards the mid-portion of the season?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're just trying to get wins, with like you said, the tough start to the season, I feel like, is going to make it really difficult to try to contend to make it in the playoffs through winning like the regular season championship. So, we have to win races, and if we keep putting ourselves in position like we have the last 3 weeks, then, I'm sure it'll finally happen. It's just frustrating to keep knocking on the door and not get there.
Still a solid finish for you tonight, Tucker. Congratulations on your P2 tonight for William Byron Esports. As we move over to our 3rd place finisher here on the Sunoco post-race report. And first time we've been able to catch up with this driver as a part of things here. Donovan Strauss, once again, a valiant effort. It seems like you kind of executed the strategy that you wanted to. You fell back a little bit early, but then you came charging hard there very late in the race. But how was it kind of behind your seat, especially with some of those late cautions and having to get up those last couple of spots late?
Yeah, Caden in front of me, really charging on Tucker on the restarts was helping me a bit, and I felt like I had a shot on the second to last one because he got under him, and I was like, oh, this is my shot. And I think Steven was a little bit better than Tucker was, and he was giving him a good fight. The first run, I felt like I was too tight in the car, and I kind of burnt my right front off, and I had to sacrifice the spots to Tucker and Steven, but regardless, we qualified really good, we raced really well, and we're maximizing our points for the most part. So it's not a win yet, but we're getting closer every week, so it's coming.
What's kind of the preparation going into Talladega? I know that you and your teammates, your back-end teammates do a lot of preparation, but kind of go into a race where you have to have friends out there to be able to work well. What's kind of the preparation going into that race in a couple weeks?
Yeah, just working with my teammates as I always do, and that's on the back end. That's always the priority at these super speedways, and just finding friends in the race. And just honestly, my mindset the last couple super speedways has been racing ahead of their crash. A lot of people like to lay in the back and try and avoid it, but I feel like if I can race ahead of it, that's been beneficial for me recently. So that's what I'm going to try and do, and just stay at the front and put on a show.
All right, Donnie, we appreciate you talking to us, and congratulations on your P3 tonight for Williams Esports.
Thank you, Blake.
Well, we take a look at your full race results tonight, and teams are the story for many of this. Not only is Wilson a two-time winner this season, but he and Ryan Luza with a good team showing for the M80 group. And then how about Donovan Strauss and Parker White, 3rd and 6th for Williams Esports. So a good night for those two all around. We also heard from Minter, Strauss, good results for them.
How about Ryan Luza, P4? Hardly mentioned his name all night, but what an incredible run. He definitely needed that turnaround. Parker White mentioned Honeycutt fell back to 7th after some contact off of 4 on the last lap. Finishes just ahead of Nick Ottinger. So I make up 1 point in the picks.
Chipping away, right? Rome wasn't built in a day. It'll keep happening for you. Still a good result for him nonetheless. A lot of these cars, you mentioned Honeycutt getting the P7. He led 35. There weren't a ton of different race leaders. Only 4 different cars, I think, lead laps in the end. A lot of these drivers in the midfield, it's worth shouting out. Vicente Salas, who finished just ahead of this group in P10. He started way back in 37th, but it was a great night for Seth the Merchant. He passed 19 cars. So did Ryan Doucette. So a lot of cars in the midfield put their work in.
Again, surprised to see Casey Kerwin up here 17th, despite the issues that he had, the wrecks that he was involved in. So 17th, great late recovery drive for him.
And of course, as you get down to the 30s, you get to some of the drivers who didn't get the results they had wanted. Thought it was going to be a good night for Taylor Hurst. He ends up in some of the incidents, trickles down to P29. Timothy Holmes, even further down, 36th position after starting in P8. And those back 4 or 5 do not make it to the scheduled distance. So we are 2 races in to the 5-race-long segment number 2. And how fitting that our 2 race winners so far, Zelensky from Brands Hatch and Steven Wilson tonight at Dover, Blake tied for the top spot.
Again, I think you can see perfectly why the segments are a pretty cool deal. Ryan Luza came into this race well back in the point standings, P30. He's P9 right now in the segment standings, and of course his points position will improve once we calculate everything for the totals. But cool to see who's going to be fighting for some playoff points, but no shocker to see it's 2 of our race winners so far.
Maybe a bit of deja vu because we were just here this weekend with some of NASCAR's top series, but it is our turn to head to the high banks of Talladega. 2 weeks time, Ryan, for our 2nd super speedway race of the year. 3rd if we'll tap Atlanta into that as well.
Absolutely, yeah. A couple weeks time here, back to super speedway racing. If we thought Dover was crazy, Talladega is going to one-up that for sure. Chaos here tonight, but we know that Talladega always brings the action. So a couple weeks from now, it's going to be a pretty good show down in Alabama.
Yeah, I'm curious now that we get our second big super speedway and we've had our second different race winner, Blake, do we feel like we're at the point where we're kind of in the trenches per se, right? I had said coming into this, 5 races, 5 different winners. Not that one will just change that narrative completely, but are we starting to be able to pick up and figure out who's got a handle and kind of who those cars to beat are?
I think so. We've gotten a couple of races in, and particularly races where we're going to more unique racetracks. It's not kind of the drafting tracks. We had Daytona early. We had Atlanta. But now that we've gotten Dover, Richmond, a couple of those tracks behind us, we can really see, okay, who has fast race cars, who has speed, who's been able to execute over a number of weekends or race weeks, I guess I should say. We're not racing on the weekends, but nevertheless, we're seeing who's able to put all of these races together. But then you throw Talladega in the mix coming up in 2 weeks. That's going to be huge potential for a first-time winner this season to go to victory lane. So that could kind of take everything we've learned early on and throw another wrinkle in it.
Well, and that's my big thought, Ryan, as well, is that, in the NASCAR Cup Series, you get a couple more looks at some of those super speedways throughout the year to be those difference maker racetracks for some teams. After the next race at Talladega, that's it for us. Daytona gone, Atlanta gone, Talladega gone. So if you're somebody that's banking on a track like that to present you an opportunity, we're going to be out of chances before we even get halfway through the regular season. So that's a big race in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's a big race. I mean, we heard just how much it meant to a guy like Colin Bowden, right? He was angry. He was frustrated. He's had some of the worst luck I have ever seen in iRacing. So a lot of guys are looking at Talladega as their final shot to really make that charge to get into playoff contention or even be above that, eligibility line to get back into the Cup, the Coke Series. So it's going to be a very interesting race in Talladega. A lot of storylines to keep an eye on, and it's going to be very interesting to see who comes out on top.
Everybody looks at those races as an opportunity, and I think after the race, most people leave upset. That's just how the super speedway racing is, and we hope that you join us for that one in a couple of weeks' time. Until then, though, that is it for us here tonight from Dover. On behalf of our entire team at NASCAR, iRacing, and for your broadcast team tonight, for Ryan Vargas, Blake McCandless, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate your defending champ, Steven Wilson, now a two-time winner in 2024. We're back in 2 weeks' time. That one on Tuesday, May the 7th. That race and every race of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series can be found exclusively here on the iRacing Esports Network and streaming live at eNASCAR.com. Till next time, good night from the Monster Mile, where it is Steven Wilson in victory lane again.